So this whole narrative, right? So what's happening? We have a bunch of people on a subreddit. We have a bunch of people using Robinhood. They seem to have successfully blown up at least a few hedge funds. Um, so one of the hedge funds that they blew up basically just got bought on the cheap by another hedge fund. And the hedge fund that bought it on the cheap, so Melvin Capital is the one that blew up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the hedge funds that bought Melvin Capital on the cheap was, or at least rescued them. I don't know if they own the whole thing, but they rescued them and they have some ownership now, is Citadel. Citadel makes money off of Robinhood's order flow. Um, and so there's basically the shortest way to explain it is there are a ton of really big Wall Street players that I suspect are very, very happy about all of this. That doesn't mean there aren't hedge funds blowing up, but I think that there are other hedge funds quite happy to see those hedge funds blow up because they were competing in the first place. And so that's why I don't really see this as David versus Goliath. I see it as Goliath versus Goliath with David as a distraction.
I just have to quickly shift gears. Something you touched on in your article. As a Mets fan, I was struck by both the outgoing and the incoming ownerships of the Mets were both mentioned in your articles for being involved in Wall Street corruption. The Wilpons with Bernie Madoff, and now the new owner, Steve Cohen, who fans have greeted with euphoria because let's face it, fan bases only care about one thing, that they're spending money, and this guy is doing that. But please talk a little bit about his involvement before, and break my heart as a Mets fan, because I try to like pull away from sports anyway, so maybe this will give me more reason to not pay attention.
Well, that's my role. I'm the skunk at the garden party. But so Steve Cohen used to run a hedge fund called SAC, which pled guilty to insider trading in 2013 and had to shut down. But of course, Steve Cohen himself did not have to admit to anything. So he reinvented himself with this new fund called Point 72. And Point 72 is one of the buyers of the now, blown up Melvin Capital, which is one of the hedge funds that was shorting GameStop.
So
And
Steve Cohen's new hedge fund swooped in and bought up the hedge fund Melvin that the Redditors blew up.
That's right. That's right. So, and I also learned this week that I guess Steve Cohen tried to be on Twitter for a minute and had some bad takes and was dunked on real bad and then deleted his account.
Yes.
Which is the kind of perhaps small victories that people can look at and feel good about. But and then there's a Bernie Madoff connection too, because that thing I was talking about before, the technical term is payment for order flow, but this idea that Robinhood can sell its orders to Citadel, believe it or not, that's an idea that Bernie Madoff came up with back in the 80s.
Wow. Wow.
So I don't know if that's an indication of if it's a good idea or not. Some people think we shouldn't allow it. The SEC asked that question in the Obama administration. But anyway, so yes, you are right. There are two touch points for Mets fans in this scandal.
Yeah, it's becoming harder and harder, which might be a good thing to be a Mets fan.